Hello everyone. For starters, if you hear any noise going on back around me and stuff, back there, I have a husband and a dog and an infant who are sitting out behind me, and the infant will probably be the culprit of most of the noise you hear. But today I'm going to be doing 5 things I've learned about having a baby, and they're in no particular order, and I've learned a lot more than just 5 things, but these are like just 5 things that I've picked out that stuck out the most to me, I guess you could say. But number 1, breastfeeding is a learned skill. Going into it, you kind of think like, yeah, you have to be taught, especially as a new mother, but I thought you would pick it up a lot quicker and that it would just sort of be one of these things that comes naturally. Well, it was something that I stressed out about a lot because it doesn't. And it was a really big struggle at the beginning, especially because with Ronan, he did not latch at the beginning for a good long while. So for an example on how difficult it was for him to latch at first, they debated on keeping us longer at the hospital because he wasn't getting it, and he barely got it, like just barely enough, like down enough for us to be able to be released when we should have been released. But when he was 5 days old, we actually ended up taking him to the ER because he was dehydrated because he still wasn't latching like fully properly. He was getting just barely enough to like scrape by, but it wasn't like enough to do anything for him. Like, it was just really a struggle to get it down for like both of us, for me to figure out what worked for him and for him to figure out how to properly latch. And yeah. It took a few weeks before we finally got in a good like rhythm and groove of how to properly breastfeed. So there was that. Number 2 is, we heard from a lot of people that you don't need a lot of clothes for them, for newborns that is, them meaning newborns, because they just grow out of it and whatever, and we got a lot of suggestions on don't get a whole ton of clothes for them when they're this young. That was not our experience. First off, he came out really small. Really small. He was only like 6 pounds, and all of his newborn clothes he swum in, and like he couldn't, I don't know, they were very big on him, so they last. Like, he's just barely starting to grow out of some of his newborn clothing, like some of it, as of now. And, yeah, so there was that to start with. So he didn't fit into a lot of clothes, and we had to get clothes that would fit him. And then on top of that, he has spit up on, and pooped on, and peed on, and everything else you can imagine on his clothes, and we've needed to change him sometimes several times throughout the day, and that makes him go through his outfits very fast. Like, you always have to have a change of clothes for him in the diaper bag, even if we're just like going across to my mom and stepfather's house, and they're literally across the yard. We live in the backyard. And we still have to bring a change of clothes because chances are he'll soil it and we'll have to change. And then by the end of the week, he's got basically no clothing to wear because he's soiled all of them. Therefore, we need a lot of different outfits for him to be able to wear and cycle through. So, for everyone who told us we didn't need a lot of newborn clothing, for our personal experience, that was so wrong. That was so wrong. The third thing is, the recovery process after delivery was a lot different than I expected. I knew that it took about 6 weeks, and sometimes less, it depends. But I knew that it took about that long, and that women normally go in for their like postpartum checkup at the 6-week mark and all that stuff, but I didn't know like the specific details of what it would all involve. I don't know, I didn't realize like how little you could do, and it wasn't, because I knew you weren't allowed to work out, but I didn't realize you weren't even allowed to you weren't allowed to stand too long, you weren't allowed to walk around too much, you weren't allowed to do housework at the beginning of it, or cook, and I just didn't realize how little you could actually do. And something that I experienced, which may be TMI, full warning right now, I'm going to talk about pooping. So, if you don't want to watch that, skip ahead. But, sorry if it is TMI, you can skip. But for me, pooping was so painful at the beginning. Like, so painful. In the hospital, they give you, like, stool softeners and ibuprofen and all that stuff, you know? And it's fine. And so I didn't realize it. But when I came home and I didn't have any stool softeners anymore, oh my gosh. Kyle can attest, he's back here. There was a night that I literally stayed up crying because it hurt so bad after. And I got, like, shooting pains throughout my whole down there area where the stitches were. Because if you don't know, after giving birth, most women tear. And so you have to be sewn back up. And I will just say that hurt really bad. Right? You have to vocalize you're not in it.
Yes.
Yeah, it was really bad. I was literally up like all night crying. I stuck ice packs down there and took like 3 Tylenol. And after all of that, the only thing that relieved it was something called a sitz bath, which was where you basically fill up the tub with hot water, just barely enough that it'll cover your genitals, basically. And then you sit in it for like 10 to 15 minutes. And that was the only thing that I found relief in. And even after I got out, it was like still really sore feeling, but the shooting pains went away and I was able to actually get some sleep. But it was so painful at first, and I was not expecting that at all. And of course it gets easier and it got better as you heal throughout the process. But yeah, there was a lot of things about the recovery process that I wasn't fully expecting, I guess. Alright. Number 4. I think I speak for Kyle and I both, but we thought that the exhaustion period would last a lot longer. So when we first brought him home and we were getting into our new routine, we were absolutely dead tired. So tired all the time. But especially for us, we have a really easy baby. We feel very blessed. He only wakes up like once, like one time at night to eat. And then after that, he pretty much sleeps like for good like 4 or 5 hour bursts at a time at night. So he sleeps really, really well at night, and he had basically from the beginning slept pretty well at night, but it was only the first like few days or so when we were kind of like feeling each other out and getting into a routine and seeing what worked for us that we were just dead tired. And then after the first like week, I would say ish, right?
Yeah.
After the first like week-ish or so, we realized that we weren't as tired as we thought we were going to be. Like our just absolutely drop dead exhaustion feeling that we were having went away, and we were actually feeling pretty good most days. Of course, we'd have the off night where you'd be super tired the next day, but it wasn't just like, I am going to collapse in the middle of the floor right now, I'm so tired type of exhaustion. At least that was our personal experience. I understand there are people out there who have not been blessed with such an easy baby as we have, because we seriously really got lucky with him being so easy. But we just expected to be super tired all the time, and I think that also came from people telling us, like, oh, prepare to never sleep again a day in your life. Like, having kids is great, but you're gonna be so exhausted, like, all the time. And yeah, we still have tired days, like I mentioned, but we have not been that super bad exhausted since, like, the first few days when we were just kind of getting a routine down. And the fifth and last thing that I am going to say that we found out about having a baby is figuring out the cues is hard. So even in the hospital, they tell you, like, what cues to take for when your baby is hungry, and things that I'll do, like, they'll do, like, a little, like, tongue and lip smacky thing when they're hungry. Well, for our baby in particular, he does that when he is hungry, and he does that when he wants to be pacified, and he also just does that to do that, I think. Like, there are times where he won't take any sort of pacifier, even if we try and pacify him with our fingers, and he won't want to eat, and he'll just be sitting there doing that. And they also tell you, like, the little cheek rub thing, and they'll turn into your thumb if you rub on their cheek, which means they're hungry. But he also does that when he's hungry and wants to be pacified as well. So I think it's a baby by baby case, personally, because yes, he does, those cues are accurate for when he is hungry, but they're also, it's not always the case with him, because he does them when he's hungry and when he's not. So figuring out his cues is sometimes still difficult, but was extremely difficult at the beginning, because we're like, is he hungry? Is he not hungry? What does he need? Because he's acting hungry and all the cues are there for he's hungry, but he just ate and he doesn't want food, so what does he want? And yeah, so figuring out the cues was a lot more difficult than they made it seem to be. They made it seem like it was just plain and simple, like a blanket sweep across the board. All babies are just the exact same. Like, if you brush their cheek and they turn into your thumb, they're hungry. Or if they do the lip smacky thing, they're hungry, and that's it. That's the only time they'll do it. That's what they made it sound like, but that is not the case, because my baby does that when he's hungry or when he wants to be pacified. And like I said, sometimes I think he just does it to do it. Maybe he just likes the feeling of sticking out his tongue. I don't even know. But those are the 5 things that I have learned about having a baby. There are a ton more things, but if I listed everything that I've learned so far, especially being a new parent, you learn a lot. This video would never end, because I'm going to continue learning forever. And I don't know if you can hear him, but he's grunting in the background.
He's sleeping. This is breathing.
He's sleeping? That's his he's sleeping. That's him breathing. I don't know if you can hear it, but if you can, that's him back there. But obviously, he is my pride and joy, and I love him so much, and having a baby is the best. So if, yeah, you guys experience anything like this, or have any other little personal anecdotes of your own you'd like to share, leave them in a comment down below. And that's all that I got for you guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Leave a like, subscribe. I'll see you guys next time. Bye!